tomorrow I'll get my feet wet with a group of...
This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Weather reporting. CBS News White House correspondent Bill Plant tonight has been told that White House Chief of Staff Donald Regan is a goner. He is on his way out by this weekend. Plant also has some advanced details on what the Tower Commission will say tomorrow about what President Reagan and his aides did in their secret dealings.
The Tower Commission will report tomorrow that just about everyone in the administration, except the president, believed the U.S. was trading arms for hostages. Sources say that while Mr. Reagan did nothing illegal, the report will show that he was detached from policymaking and that his White House decision-making process was a disaster waiting to happen. Chief of Staff Donald Regan, according to Commission sources, gets bad marks as a manager. The report finds evidence he took part in a cover-up designed to minimize the president's involvement. John Poindexter is pictured as deliberately deceiving his superiors. Both he and Oliver North, say sources, operated far beyond their authority, but because the commission could not interview them or get access to bank records, it is unable to trace the diversion of funds to the Contras. The report will document the president's confusion over when he approved the first transfer of arms by Israel to Iran. He told the commission two different stories. After reports appeared suggesting that he changed his version because he'd been coached by his staff, Mr. Reagan wrote the commission a letter in which he said he had no recollection and may indeed have allowed himself to be influenced by others.
The president can't seem to keep his tail straight.
Why not?
Well, he doesn't remember what he said and when he said it.
Do you think he really forgot?
No, I really don't. I think that the evidence will show that in the Tower Commission.
A new poll by the Los Angeles Times suggests that skepticism is widely shared. 75% of those surveyed believe the White House tried to cover up the scandal. 2/3 say it has diminished the president's ability to lead. Conclusions the administration is working hard to reverse.
I think that any idea that the administration is so-called dead in the water are absolutely false.
Sources tell CBS News tonight that President Reagan has finally told Chief of Staff Donald Regan that it's time to leave the administration. The announcement could come this weekend. An active search is still underway for Regan's replacement. Bill Plant, CBS News, the White House.
Today, one of President Reagan's closest friends and former top aide, Michael Deaver, used a complicated legal tactic to delay his own indictment on a totally separate criminal corruption case. As Rita Bravel reports, it's the same legal tactic that is now being used to try to derail a special prosecutor's whole investigation of the Iranian arms scandal.
Deaver would not comment on his last-minute reprieve from a perjury indictment.
I don't have any comments to make.
Just hours before independent counsel Whitney North Seymour planned to charge Deaver with lying to a federal grand jury and a congressional committee about his lobbying activities, a federal judge blocked the indictment. Aware of Seymour's intention, Deaver's attorneys had rushed into court this morning to claim that the independent counsel law is unconstitutional because it grants prosecutorial powers to an official appointed by the judiciary rather than by the president as required. At a hastily called hearing, Seymour argued that Deaver himself had advocated the appointment of the independent counsel. Seymour said if Deaver had been let off the hook, he would have said, "Wow, this is wonderful." Now all of a sudden, he says no. But U.S. District Judge Thomas Penfield Jackson said the courts must decide the issue of whether the independent counsel law is constitutional, and to indict Deaver first might cause irreparable injury. Deaver's case comes one day after former National Security Council aide Oliver North filed an almost identical suit to block a separate independent counsel investigation of him. The combined actions have created concern over the whole future of independent counsels.
You can't expect the executive department to investigate itself. There's too much of a conflict of interest.
For the courts to throw out a statute as important to the order and to the cause of justice in this country as a special prosecutor statute would be a calamity of the greatest order.
There are several other independent counsel investigations now underway, and if Deaver and North prevail, all of them could be ended. But legal experts say that whatever the courts decide on the issue will have its most serious implication for the Iran-Contra scandal. Rita Braver, CBS News, Washington.
Tomorrow's Tower Commission report is not expected to reveal who got the cash, where all the money went. Key witnesses apparently refused to tell. So mystery remains about whether some of the money was skimmed and sent illegally to Nicaraguan places like President Reagan and his secret office. CBS News National Affairs correspondent Leslie Stahl has been looking into whether Vice President Bush and or his aides have been involved in the cover-up.
From the beginning, Vice President Bush has denied any knowledge of the illegal resupply operation of the country.
You've asked the question whether my office was involved or whether I'm involved in running this operation, and the answer is unequivocally no.
But questions remain about Bush's involvement based on the knowledge provided by his own office and the public misstatements of his national security advisor, Donald Gregg. The key of Gregg's relationship with this man, Max Gomez, also known as Felix Rodriguez, a former associate of Gregg with the CIA. Gomez helped direct secret airlift to the country from Bull Terriers on Capsizes under the cover of fighting with Alabama guerrillas, a job Gregg helped reject. According to the chronology, Vice President met with Gomez 3 times, once in January 85 and twice in May 86. Bush's office says they talked only about El Salvador and never discussed the country.
I have never, ever had a discussion with him about the contras and contra support of any kind.
politely avoided the subject. I'm sorry about the weather. When the French sunk a Greenpeace ship and a man was killed, the defense minister resigned. But few Frenchmen asked what President Francois Mitterrand knew and when he knew it,
A man of state must be cynical, must be realistic. He must not be naive.
He must also not be weak. Ronald Reagan, as the Europeans see him, now looks like a very old man.
It shows that the American system is functioning rather impressively and rather effectively if you want to cripple presidents, and you seem to want to do so constantly.
The Europeans have been following each new revelation of the scandal, each new blemish on the image of the American presidency. And they can't help but compare what they're hearing from Washington with what they're hearing from Moscow. The PR advantage, as they see it, has shifted.
We really are afraid right now in Europe. We are afraid that, especially as we are confronted by a dynamic new Soviet leadership, I think really we are afraid of not having equally effective American leadership. This would be a disaster.
If President Reagan had an image here before the scandal, it was one of commitment to his ideals and of the power to see them through. Now he's seen not only to have lost his grip, he's lost his hands. Mark Phillips, CBS News, Rome.
Later on tonight's CBS Evening News, you'll meet the so-called great imposter, responsible for a lot of humanity's aches and pains. 54. And when dogs turn killer, are there masters to blame?
The guys at Car and Drive are pretty impressed with the Mazda 323. They know what they're talking about. They say, and I quote, "It conveys a feeling of structural integrity and heft that belies its small size," unquote. What they're saying is, it's a small road car. They also say, quote, "It's one impressive machine, not only a solid driving package, but a solid value as well," unquote. I tell everybody it's the best small car I've ever driven. Of course, nobody ever quotes me.
Peanuts! Get the fresh roast peanuts! Harry, wait for your sister!
Remember getting Planters nuts fresh from the roaster? Just one whiff, and you couldn't resist them. Well, today there's a snack that's just as irresistible. Planters Honey Roasted Nuts. They're sweet enough to please and just salty enough to tease. Planters Honey Roasted Nuts. Mr. Peanut does it again.
The United States Supreme Court today again rejected President Reagan's view of affirmative action. It upheld a controversial program for ending job discrimination against minorities. Law correspondent Fred Graham reports the ruling and its impact.
The Supreme Court upheld affirmative action again today, handing the Reagan administration yet another defeat in its opposition to racial quotas. The court upheld a quota that requires the Alabama State Police to promote equal numbers of blacks and whites until 25% of the officers are black.
Well, I think it's a victory for affirmative action in Alabama and in the country as a whole.
The key to the 5-4 decision was that Alabama had resisted hiring black state troopers for years. Justice William Brennan's opinion held that this perverse, systematic, and obstinate discriminatory conduct in past hiring meant that few blacks were officers and justified the preferences in promotions. The 4 dissenters said the quota discriminated against white troopers without justification. Last year, in a series of cases involving sheet metal workers in New York, firefighters in Cleveland, Ohio, and school teachers in Michigan, the Reagan Justice Department took a hard line against any kind of racial preferences and lost. In this case, the Justice Department softened its tactics, admitting that a low promotion quota would have been legal, but arguing that a 50% quota was just too high. The soft approach also proved to be a loser.
Their approach to the cases is not working, and therefore they ought to cease and desist from their present policies and accept the rulings of the court.
Well, clearly, affirmative action is the law of the land.
But it is not yet the law of the land where women are concerned. The Supreme Court's first decision on affirmative action for women is expected in the coming weeks, and again, the Justice Department is in opposition. Fred Graham, CBS News, Washington.
Astronomers are getting their closest look yet at the death of a star, a massive star explosion closer to Earth than anything seen in centuries. As close as it is, the star is still so far away, it's taken the first light of the event 50,000 years to get here. Scientists hope to learn a lot from it about the stuff of stars and galaxies. Authorities said today 18 of 19 crewmen from a capsized Filipino cargo ship were presumed dead now in a vicious North Atlantic storm. Ships and planes abandoned rescue efforts after a lone survivor was plucked from 35-foot seas by a U.S. Navy submarine, which was forced to limit its efforts after taking on water. The rescued man was one of 8 on a raft that overturned when a rescue ship tried to pick the Filipinos up.
In the morning, in the evening, hey, we got fun.
You know, when you take a Carnival cruise, all your shipboard fun is included in the price. All your nighttime entertainment's included. All your food's included, too. Plus, fantastic tropical ports of call. And you know what all this costs? A lot less than you think. Even your airfare's included. Take a 3, 4, or 7-day cruise on Carnival, the most popular cruise line in the world.
Mom, listen. Well, of course you'll hardly hear anything. It's my new Whirlpool dishwasher. Cleans the grate, so quiet. Mom, what's all that noise? Oh, your dishwasher.
Whirlpool.
Tums doesn't have it. Rolaids doesn't have it. Maalox-Plus does. We have what you need for complete relief of excess acid, heartburn, and gas. Maalox for acid and heartburn, plus simethicone for gas. Get complete relief. Try Maalox-Plus.
Syrian troops are trying where the United States and Israel failed to enforce peace in West Beirut, but they've already made some deadly enemies. Today, Shiite radicals were in the streets promising revenge for what they say was a Syrian massacre. CBS News Bureau Chief Juan Carlos Demusio is there.
When Syrian commandos stormed a base of the pro-Iranian Hezbollah militia in West Beirut and killed 23 Shiite Muslim fundamentalists, they were sending a ruthless message to the gunmen who have ruled this part of the city, that Syria means what it says when it tells the militias to get off the streets. And that includes even the most radical Islamic groups. The reply came today. Shiite mourners at the funeral of the 23 men cursed Syria and called for the death of its army commander in Beirut. Around 6,000 Syrian soldiers, supported by tanks and heavy armor, have established a massive presence in the Muslim sector of the Lebanese capital. It took a week of heavy fighting to bring the Syrians back to West Beirut. Syria is determined to reassert its influence in Beirut, and its crucial test will be whether it can help with the release of foreign hostages. 8 of them are Americans. Some of the captives are believed to be inside the southern suburbs of Beirut, not far from these streets, now ruled by anger and grief. Juan Carlos Demusio, CBS News, West Beirut.
In an Israeli courtroom, a second survivor today identified John Demjanjuk as Ivan the Terrible, the guard who tortured and killed thousands of Jews and others at a Nazi death camp. And the witness recoiled in horror when Demjanjuk, a former Cleveland auto worker, tried to shake his hand. Witness Eliyahu Rosenberg testified that Ivan the Terrible would whip and slash victims as they entered the gas chambers at Treblinka. He described what he saw from just outside the chamber.
They were fighting and trying to get above the heads of the others in order to get a tiny bit of air.
The prosecutor asked Rosenberg if he could identify Demjanjuk as Ivan. Rosenberg said he wanted to look him in the eyes.
Mr. Rosenberg? Please sit down.
Rosenberg's wife fainted when Demjanjuk tried to shake her husband's hand. He continued his testimony in tears and said yes, Demjanjuk was the man. Rosenberg retracted statements he made years ago that Ivan was killed in an uprising by prisoners. Today, he said the story he had told then was mere boasting.
Owning a restaurant is a dream come true. It's hectic, but fun. I put a lot of thought into every decision. Same's true with the medicines I take. When aches and pains get in my way, I take Tylenol. I was first given Tylenol in the hospital after I fell and hurt myself. It really took care of the pain. They say Tylenol is the pain reliever hospitals use most, and that makes me feel confident about using it.
Trust Tylenol, the pain reliever hospitals use most. It's a question of taste. If you had your pick of two cereals, both with 100% nutrition, would you pick the one with just one kind of flake? Or Kellogg's Just Right with 3 different kinds of flakes, plus hearty rolled oats, plump raisins, sweet juicy dates, and crisp crunchy nuts? You're not alone. 3 out of 4 people picked Just Right over every other high vitamin cereal. There was no question of nutrition. It was simply a question of taste. Kellogg's Just Right with fruit or whole grain.
The National Collegiate Athletic Association, the NCAA, today announced it is barring football at Southern Methodist University for 1987. That's because of illegal payments to players. That's the most severe penalty ever against a college football program. The NCAA also said SMU will be limited to 7 Southwest Conference games in 1988, all on the road. Sanctions against SMU will last until 1990. We've reported the debate over the dogs called pit bulls. Some see these dogs as so dangerous, communities have tried to ban them. Some call them friendly animals. Today, there was terrifying testimony about 3 pit bulls in a Georgia court. It's agreed the dogs killed a child. Is their owner to blame? CBS News correspondent Bruce Hall reports.
In a landmark case, 25-year-old Hayward Turnipseed is being tried for involuntary manslaughter. The facts are undisputed. While Turnipseed was away from home, his 3 pit bulldogs got out of his yard and attacked and killed 4-year-old Billy Gordon Jr. as he was walking through the neighborhood.
Mean dog. This is dog.
Neighbors insisted Turnipseed should be charged in the killing.
You should not be able to walk free and forget it.
And today, in emotional testimony, 11-year-old Wakia Buford, who was walking with Billy, said the dogs just came after them.
We laid on the ground, me and little Billy. We laid on the ground, and I told him to be still. And he was scared. So dogs, they came behind him, and then they started pulling on back his leg.
Billy was killed, and Wakia escaped by playing dead. The dogs then went after a neighbor.
As I was looking, this dog with this dripping blood in his face was barking at me.
That is when the police arrived. Nationwide, pit bulldogs have been involved in nearly 2/3 of all deaths from dog attacks in the past 4 years. Many of the dogs are trained for fighting and become dangerous when they attack. Attorneys in this case said Billy Gordon never had a chance. The question is whether this was just a terrible accident or a criminal act.
I believe the jury, in the end of this case, is going to agree that what happened here was not a crime, it was a tragedy, and that's all.
I feel like it should have happened to me. I should have died, not the baby.
The case is expected to go to the jury by the end of the week. Bruce Hall, CBS News, Decatur, Georgia.
Say, these must be Jack's new Canon personal copiers. Great color.
Yeah, and they copy in 5. You want to see?
Go ahead. Make my day.
Everything you need to copy with is in this replaceable cartridge.
I'll do that.
Good thing Canon has PCs for every personality, even pushy agents.
Lighten up, Jack.
These new Canon personal copiers are light. Put one in my car.
What a guy.
Personal copiers for every personality. For information, call toll-free 1-800-OK-CANON.
I've got the flu and I ache. But I don't take aspirin anymore, or Tylenol. I choose Advil. Advil stops my headache, reduces fever, and relieves the aches. Advil, advanced medicine for pain. Give me some raspberry.
You'll go wild over Riunite Royal Raspberry. The taste of raspberries and natural Riunite, not a watered-down cooler. And try natural peach.
$500 million every week. That's how much America still spends on foreign oil. At least $500 million every week. To help control the cost of energy imports, we're using energy efficiently. And we're using our country's own energy resources, like electricity from coal and nuclear energy. Coal and nuclear energy are made in America. Coal and nuclear energy are homegrown.
What causes pain? It may be injury, disease, tension. There are many causes. But now CBS News medical correspondent Susan Spencer explains why some people in pain may be seeing a doctor when they should be visiting a dentist.
Louise Atwell practices religiously, although she knows that playing will bring on an excruciating headache that will last for days.
When somebody told me that my jaw could be creating a headache, I thought they were crazy. I mean, I'd let them go to the psychiatrist.
But Atwell is among the estimated 40 million Americans who suffer TMJ disorders, TMJ for temporomandibular joint, the jaw joint. This problem so often seems to be something else that specialists have nicknamed TMJ, the Great Imposter.
My left eye would even start to twitch.
Headaches and dizziness for the past 3 years. You could hear it, you could see my jaw being thrown out of place. All of the pain was in my back and in my neck.
No wonder. This is the most complicated joint in the body, the only one that moves 3 ways. Major nerves and powerful muscles are nearby, and if any of this gets out of whack, from crooked teeth, bad braces, or even playing the violin, pain can strike almost anywhere.
It overlaps so many other possible causes of pain that it's important to have a very accurate diagnosis.
It usually goes undiscovered for years by the patient, goes undiagnosed for years by the doctor.
Patients tell of seeing scores of doctors, psychiatrists frequently among them, before the problem is pinned down, often by their dentist. With cavities almost a thing of the past, dentists have rushed into this new field with gusto, saying their expertise goes much further than teeth.
We are not looking on the economical aspect. We're looking at the aspect of how we're going to treat our patient more effectively.
TMJ clinics with dentists, physical therapists, even neurologists and psychologists are popping up all over. Treatment can range from ultrasound to relax muscles to surgery to change the alignment of the jaw. But often orthodontics or a simple dental device will be enough, at least to stop unconscious clenching and grinding of the teeth.
Now the muscles are relaxed, my jaw is opening properly as the x-rays show, and I feel like a new person.
So far, nothing's worked for Louise Atwell, who keeps on playing the violin, knowing now at least that her problem is not in her head, but in her jaws, and that a lot of people are finding out that jaws can be a big deal. Susan Spencer, CBS News, Washington.
And that's the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather, thank you for joining us. Good night.
Wee! If you've been waiting for some really big news in 4x4s, your waiting's over. Mazda's got one fantastic new 4x4. And Mazda's loaded up SE5 is also priced close to other people's stripped down 4x4s. I'll tell you, it's the best handling 4x4 I've ever driven. And I've been driving 4x4s ever since never mind.
I live naturally, always have. So, when my doctor said Metamucil keeps you regular naturally, I gave it a try.
Metamucil's fiber is my doctor's choice. It's a true natural laxative. So these days, I'm my regular self, thanks to Metamucil.
Trust is a delicate thing, not easy to come by. So knowing more doctors trust Metamucil makes me feel better than ever.
Natural fiber Metamucil.
It's tried,
True.
and trusted.
Next time, get a Hayworth furniture system. They're built. Next time, get a Hayworth furniture system. They're built. Next time, get a Hayworth furniture system. They're built.
This is CBS.
The TV8 News, live at 6, next.
Wendy's has an important message for you about the new Big Classic. Ooh. Now, for limited time, you can get Wendy's Big Classic for just 99 cents. Ooh. Imagine the soft Kaiser bun, the fat tomatoes, the fresh toppings, the beef. Get the big taste of Wendy's Big Classic for just 99 cents now.
This is the good stuff.
This offer is for a limited time, so hurry over to Wendy's, okay?
Okay. Hurry, don't miss out.